Welcome, Aries, to your 2025 horoscope, where I'm going to be looking at all the major astrological energies that are going to be happening to your sign in 2025. So, before I get into that, though, I would love to just announce that I am on November 23 of 2024. I am going to be hosting a 1 day astrology retreat here in Brisbane. We're going to be going through together all of the major energies of 2025. We're going to be workshopping all of that energy so you can come away with deeper insight and feeling prepared about what this really dynamic and very different year that we're moving into is going to look like. So it's going to be a 1 day event and quite possibly some dinner and drinks together afterwards, which I'm looking forward to. So if you are in Brisbane or you can get to Brisbane, I'd love to see you. And I'll pop all the details in a link below where you can find out more information about the event and book in. So let's have a look at the astrology for your year, Aries. So if you are an Aries rising, I'm going to be doing all the astrology based on the house system with Aries rising. So I've deleted here all of the Sun, Mercury, Venus, etc. And we're just going to be focusing on the heavy hitters in this video. So in short, 2025 for you, Aries rising, has all of the hallmarks to be a really life-changing year. You've got two major cycles moving through your first house. You have Jupiter in Cancer moving into the fourth and angular position. And then, of course, Mars, your ruling planet, does begin the year retrograde. So let's start breaking that down a little bit. Now, the first cab off the rank, so to speak, in terms of some big hitters in the year of 2025 is the entrance of Neptune into your sign. So this is such a rare transit for anybody. Not everyone's going to even have Neptune in their first house. And in 2025, you're going to be introduced to this cycle that will stay for 14 years. So it will start on March 30, and then it will push through until October 22. And then Neptune will retrograde back into your 12th house, where you'll have a few things to clean up there. And then by the time I believe we get to February 2026, actually be January 2026, Neptune will call your first house and the sign of Aries home for the next 14 years. So you've got a cycle in 2025 that's introducing you to this 14-year cycle. So there's going to be parts of next year, namely the very end of March through until late October, where life may start to feel a little insubstantial. Neptune does bring a soulful, a creative type of energy to it, even though it's not terribly energetic or productive. And energetic is definitely a word that we describe the sign of Aries. So this is going to feel perhaps fatiguing, a little bit lost, a little bit discombobulated, and you might be even dealing with some of life's more existential questions. What does it all mean? What is the purpose? And those sort of things. So do be prepared that in those mid-year months that there is going to be this sense of fatigue. It's almost as though Neptune has a pulling feel. So do be aware that there's going to be that period of next year where you are going to be pulled or called. Your soul is being guided in a direction that maybe you couldn't even fathom, positioned here in October of 2024, where I'm recording this for you. Now, if you can cast your mind back to around 2011 through to 2018, when you had Uranus in your first house in the sign of Aries, Uranus in Aries is being pushed, and that's very different energy from Neptune that tends to pull you. So do be prepared for some frustration, some confusion, some overwhelm, fatigue. And that's going to extend for you until October of next year. So those are the months where maybe you'd be better off to not push for progress, take it easy a little bit, and just allow yourself to be a human being as opposed to a human doing. So that is going to be the longer end, the sort of the introduction to a very long cycle of 14 years. So will it be huge next year? Yeah, I think it will. But it is certainly going to be that first tidal pull of bigger cycles that will, continue for the next couple of decades. What's going to make this feel a little unique, a little different than a regular Neptune in the first house for those who've had it, is that we'll also have the co-presence of Saturn. Saturn will move into Aries as well next year, again for an introductory cycle. So that will start from about May 25 through until September 1. Of course, Saturn will retrograde back into Pisces and your 12th house, and then it's going to come back into the first in 2026. This is going to be the challenging one from my astrologer's advice. This one's going to be the tricky one because as an Aries rising, you like to go fast, you tend to be impulsive, you tend to want to go quickly, you want to do all the things. The Saturn cycles are going to slow you right down. They're going to ask you to trade your penchant for impulsiveness for going slower, making well thought out and wise decisions, and particularly decisions that are going to support you in the long term rather than the short term, which is Mars's domain. So, when in doubt, do think long term next year because the actions that you do and don't take next year, the actions or the choices that you do or don't make are really going to set you up for success in 2026 and beyond. So, really, 2025 is, I know in Australia we call it the entree, which is more like the appetizer, I believe. But it is just that little sort of taste testing plate that you get before the main meal comes out. And so if you use these cycles wisely, it can be a really helpful year of planning and preparation, allowing the pull of your soul to call you somewhere. And then also do that Saturn elbow grease, the hard work that can help you really, move the needle, as they say. So there is going to be some trials. There are going to be some tribulations. There could also be just hiccups with the body. Having Neptune and Saturn together in the first house can be really, really fatiguing. So on the front end of these cycles, you might get some benefit of, whether you need to improve your fitness, whether you need to improve some of your health indicators, lose a bunch of weight, reduce alcohol, whatever the thing is that you need to do to support you, to support your body, to support the vessel that carries you through life. It would be a really great thing to do. Now, officially, these two planets don't conjoin until 2026, but throughout July and August, they get super, super close, about 17 minutes. I'm just going to call it a conjunction because, hey, you're going to feel it. And so you might feel the intensity of pressure from Saturn. That is Saturn's job. Wherever it goes for any of us in the birth chart, it is going to really feel heavy. It's going to feel like you're, under pressure. There's a grind, there's a weight, a gravitas, with Saturn. And Neptune can sometimes be just that little bit of a buffer that can take the edge off. So, I'm going to use this analogy, not the wisest one, but you had a hard day, you come home and you have a little wine or something like that, just takes the edge off. That's sort of the energy that you're going into. So maybe you are grinding away at a personal project, something significant in your life. And then maybe you can counteract the hardness with something that is spiritual or mystical or creative. I often say to people in client sessions, if they're having problems with their career, for instance, or not feeling very satisfied at work, well, that's your 9 to 5 life. What are you doing from your 5 to 9? And so next year might be a really great opportunity for you to try and blend these seemingly opposing energies. How can I perhaps commit to a dream, Saturn and Neptune together? Or it may also be, how do I surrender control? So, of course, it's going to be a little bit different for each Aries rising, depending on the rest of your chart. So, from a first house perspective, 2025 is huge. A lot of there'll be some challenges for sure there with Saturn, but if you can kind of lean into some faith, ideas of hope, and also remember that you have a spirit and a soul that needs taken care of as well, it will help keep you um, elevated or buoyant when that feeling of the weight of Saturn can sometimes get you down. Now, another factor as an overall influence in 2025 is that Mars, because we start the year with Mars retrograde in your fifth house, then it dips back into the fourth, and it moves slow this year. So we have a 2-year cycle with Mars, which is your ruler. Um, so every calendar year, Mars is going to focus on different areas of your birth chart. So I'm just going to bring your chart back up again, and you'll get a bit of a vision of what that's going to look like. So Mars starts in actually, I've got to go back here. Oh, I won't worry about that. I'll just continue pushing forward. So it starts in Leo, goes back into Cancer, then eventually stations retrograde in February, makes its way through Leo, and then all the other signs. And by the end of the year, Mars will wind up 2025 in Sagittarius. So for the most part, Mars is traveling through the western part of your horoscope. So that I like those years personally. I think they are good for onwards and upwards. There's more energy with other people. What are you doing with other people? What are you doing out in the world? What are you doing, like, as an actual individual? When it goes the other way, more on the eastern side of the horoscope, they tend to be the more navel-gazing years or self-development years. You kind of did that. 2025 is going to be that, pedal to the metal. What am I going to do? And I think that really tracks with Saturn coming into your first house. It's bringing that weight of what are you doing? And of course, with Neptune, it might be hard to figure that out for a while. You may be really inspired to make something tangible out of something that might otherwise be intangible, bringing the sublime to the ridiculous, as they say. So, in terms of finances, I'm going to be doing these through sort of house topics. So, as far as finances are concerned, what's going to happen in 2025 is that you're going to have a break from the destabilizing influence of Uranus and Taurus, which has been there since 2018. So, you'll get a break. So, from July 7 till about September 1st, Uranus will be out of your second house of cash flow. So that's going to be the first time in, what's that, about 7 years that you haven't had that erratic, destabilizing, frantic energy of Uranus in the second. You have Taurus on the on the second house. So when it comes to money, when it comes to abundance, sustenance, you like stability, and Uranus has brought pretty much anything but that. So you will get a little bit of a chance to just sort of settle a little bit when it comes to money, feeling like you've got your feet on the ground. And it may not just be cash, it just may also be, or, money, it may also be your sense of your ability to attract what you need in life, your ability to be supported by life, by others, by yourself. And you'll get some deeper insight into how you can stabilize money moving forward. Because chances are, since 2018, there's been some shifts around the way that you earn, spend, and save. and you can iron out some of those kinks because, again, like everything else in 2025, Uranus is coming back into Taurus. So you're only getting a brief hiatus because we'll have Uranus move into Gemini, then it'll come back into Taurus, and then back into Gemini in 2026. So in all, no matter how I carve this up for you, um, 2025 is very much a dip your toe in the water year for a lot of things. And of course, money stuff is going to be one of them. So, uh, chances are too, this break of Uranus in Taurus is also going to help you think about and get your feet back on the ground and go, okay, uh, what does it mean for me to earn money authentically? What does it mean to earn on my own terms, to attract abundance on my own terms, and things of that nature? Any delays, disruptions, a sense of disharmony in your second house will start to stabilize a little bit in the sort of third quarter of the year. And it's also, so that's kind of, it's a big influence, but I think it will be more of an influence of relief, but also knowing that Uranus is going to come back from September and then through into early 2026, that the disruption's not over. There's going to be more change to come, perhaps more new, innovative, and creative ways to earn or to generate what you need, but it is going to sort of dull down and then come back again. I think another thing to consider when it comes to money in general for you in 2025 is that Venus, the ruler of your second house, is going to retrograde. So those dates are from March 2 to about April 12, I think my handwriting says there. It could be 17, maybe it's 12. Let me just check that for you. Yeah, so it's about the 12th. And so what's going to happen is that Venus, the ruler of money, is going to retrograde starting in Aries and then, so your first house, and then back into the 12th. And so a big part of the whole abundance, resources, sustenance is going to have to stem from you. And what I mean by that is stuff to do with worthiness, self-esteem, confidence. And then, of course, once Venus retrogrades through Pisces back into your 12th house, this might be about you unclearing some of the pipes in your mind about fears, phobias, perhaps the self-talk or the self-worthiness stuff with Venus that, oh, I'm not good enough for this, or that can't possibly happen to me. Any of those kind of negative self-talks, be gone. I think that's going to be very much the Venus retrograde journey for you. It's reassessing your desire. And so when this happens, Uranus is still going to be there. So if you haven't really quenched the thirst of authenticity regarding second house stuff, this is going to be your time to sort of really do that self-analysis, that self-talk, and all of the sort of stuff to go, what do I really want when it comes to um, all of those Taurus things, money, values, comfort. You might realize you need more. You may realize, hey, over the last 7 years of Uranus and Taurus, I've done pretty well for myself. Either way, you're going to figure out what is and what isn't working when it comes to money. So you might have to reinvest in yourself a little bit with that Venus retrograde. Get your head straight, clear out the junk from the 12th house, and then just go for gold once everything starts coming through the first in Aries. So your home life's going to feel a little bit turbulent, I guess, a little bit agitated, a little bit irritated. You might even be feeling this now. As I said, I'm recording this on October 7th. So Mars is in Cancer. Mars is your ruling planet, so you might be very motivated, eager, enthused, all of those kind of Mars words to take action around things to do on the home front. So Mars will be a mainstay in Cancer throughout 2025. In early November of 2024 and move into Leo, slow right down. December, it will retrograde at 6 Leo and then come back into Cancer. And it's going to be pushing through Cancer until February 2020, February 24, 2025. It will station, I think it's what, 17 Cancer, I believe. And then it will continue through Cancer until April. And so this is going to be your really itchy, scratchy period on the home front. You may feel discontent, agitated, irritated about where you live, who you live with, what you want out of your domestic life. Maybe Mars, your ruling planet, being there is also helping you to awaken something domestic in you that maybe you don't normally have. Maybe you've got a desire to own your own home, whereas before you didn't care. Maybe you've got a desire to have children, before didn't really care. Maybe you want to settle down, maybe you want a Splitsville. It depends. It's going to be very different for everyone. I can also see that the early part of the year is going to bring some reasonable amount of frustrations because of the retrograde that will last in your fourth house until about February 2024. So there could be some delays or mishaps if you're buying, selling, maybe if you're doing some renos or DIY work. You might also have this take place in the sense of family dynamics and family relationships, who you're living with, who you're not living with, whether those are flatmates or um, spouses, maybe it's children, maybe it's your relatives and your extended family. So there is going to be some upset apple carts in that department because you're going to be very action orientated in that area of life, whereas ruled by the moon, Cancer is more emotional and sensitive as well. So, my tip would be don't let things just get swept under the carpet, and or don't bury issues as well. Mars is coming in to cut and burn through all the things. It's not going to feel nice. Yes, it's going to ruffle feathers. Yes, it's going to piss some people off, possibly yourself. But there is going to be a method in the madness, and the positive changes will come through once Jupiter arrives. So that's a once in every decade, 12-year cycle where you are going to get benefits and blessings on the home front. So don't be afraid to do what needs to be done in the earlier part of the year. This may even be happening for you now, because it may not feel great right now, but you will get repaid threefold when Jupiter arrives from June, and Jupiter will stay there solid for a bit over 12 months. So, with Jupiter in Cancer, life at home is going to get bigger. We do say that Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So, you might even find that your home gets bigger. You might buy or rent a bigger place. You might need more room because there's going to be more people. Maybe it's uh, taking in some flatmates to share the rent, perhaps. Maybe you're having children and you need more space. Maybe you've got family visiting from interstate, overseas, etc., etc. But wherever we see Jupiter, we see a little bit more benevolence, a little bit more upgrade, a little bit more beauty as well. So, Jupiter doesn't generally want to do it too cheap, despite being in Cancer. But what you might see to that spiritual life at home becomes more important to you as well. Because keep in mind, Neptune's doing a little bit of work on the first. So you might feel that family life, family connections, family traditions. This could be spiritual, religious, whatever works for you. There's just that beautiful abundance coming through on the home front. For some Aries, this might also mean some success in real estate. You might buy or sell and get a little bit more than what you anticipated for that. So that could be a bonus too. Um, Mars in Leo from about April 8 to June 17 is going to be a nice cycle for you as well, because that's going to be your first time in 2 years since Mars has been there. I mean, there was a little bit in November and December of 2024, but this is the full cycle now, where you really get to find out what does joy, happiness, and fun mean to you. And so it's a big one because, as I said, it's only every 2 years. So you might have a bit more renewed confidence in the mating, dating, and relating area of life. All those Venus ruled things. So if you are single and looking, Mars is a great time. Mars in Leo is a great time for you to go for it. Put yourself out there on the market, be active socially, but it's about doing things that you enjoy. Okay. So you might really enjoy going to music concerts. You might really like going to sporting events, whatever it is. It's just really about you being you. So when it comes to the fifth house, I often say, well, what do you like to do with yourself when the bills are paid and the jobs are done? Sometimes that's a really hard question for people, but that's what Mars in your fifth house from early April to mid-June is going to invite you to do. You might also experience some challenges in those departments too. So, while Mars has got full of gusto here, sometimes we can overdo it too in that area of life. So, um, any challenges that may have cropped up in late 2024, they may come back again, whether that's with a romance, a creative outlet, even children, issues could crop up then as well. But as Mars comes back in April, you can sort of re-tackle those things, readdress them, and get on top of them. So Mars is going to really boost your creative energy, your desire for play, and just really reminds you to have fun. So Mars will exit that area of your life, and then a long cycle of Mercury happens. And so that's going to happen from June 27 to September 4. So Mercury's usual few week period will be 2 months. The retrograde is from about July 18 to August 10. So that's going to be a period of time where you're going to really have to think about, yeah, well, in Mars retrograde, I did all the things. Some things are going to go well, some things are not going to go so well. With the Mercury retrograde, it gives you that opportunity to figure out what the crossed wires were, where did the confusion lie, and really give some thought to what joy really means for you, because you just might be a bit of a horse out of the gate with Mars and Leo. And as I said, some things will work, some things may not work, but Mercury can sometimes, that retrograde can be, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and look back at that cycle and what might you do differently. So, I would also use that period of time to get on top of your fun life in the sense of, well, if you've got plenty of work meetings scheduled, do you have any fun meetings scheduled? So that can be a time to get on top of logistics, aligning logistics. So say, for example, if you've got children, what are their sporting events? What are their creative things doing? Or maybe just that thing that you've just really wanted to do for a hobby, for fun, just because, schedule it in. Okay, so that's what I would recommend for you in the Mars in Leo cycle when it pushes through your fifth house from April through to June. Now, when it comes to holidays, travel, adventure, ninth house stuff, well, it's a little quiet this year because the ruler of your ninth, which is Jupiter, is either in the third or in the fourth. So it's kind of closer to home. So you might be trading in your airports and passports for more metaphorical travel in 2025. And that's because, firstly, Jupiter will still be there, but also the big stuff is Uranus in Gemini. So from July to November, Uranus is going to be really sparking curiosity. So learning, studying, discovery, these bright flashes of insight about what you can learn, what you're curious about, are really going to be peaking in 2025. And keep in mind, you've got Neptune in your first house. So this is going to be changing you at a very profound type of spiritual level. And so then Uranus coming into your third, you might be thinking, well, I'm going to learn this. I might do a weekend workshop in Reiki or acupuncture or tarot, astrology, whatever it is. So 2025 is really a year for you to let your imagination run wild. Whatever you're interested in, you listen to a podcast, you buy the book, you listen to the podcast, you go and attend the weekend workshop or whatever it is that's on offer. Go and listen to people who uplift, inspire you. I went and saw someone earlier in the year talk, and I've never done that before to go and watch a talk. As a journalist, came to Brisbane, and it was sensational. And it was just so out of the box for me. But I could have listened to him talk till Christmas, but obviously I didn't do that. So you might also enjoy weekends away, overnighters, as opposed to one long holiday in 2025. Uranus in the third might also encourage you just to be a bit of a tourist in your own city. Maybe there's that restaurant you've always wanted to try, or you've never been to, that beach town an hour away from you that everyone talks about. The third house is it's our daily life, our daily routines and things like that. And so Uranus may inspire you to really reinvigorate them, to bring some meaning into the mundane of your everyday life. Revolutionizing things. So, for example, you might decide to buy an electric car. Wild example. I don't know if I'd fully recommend that one, but anyway, if you do, you can. But the third house, you might find yourself buying all the books, reading all the books, hopefully. Signing up for courses and workshops and things, as I mentioned. And so the third house is a little overlooked, in my opinion, because we all have our little routines and the things that we like to do on the regular, a little bit of a day-to-day thing. But when we can inject a little bit of electricity into it, a little bit of that Uranian spark, we can give those daily things a little bit more meaning. So for some people, that might be have more often than not have a spiritual component to it. So yeah, you might go and do this, that, and the other, but maybe you might pray more, or maybe you'll do something that whatever works for you and that department. So you can go and do your regular things, but maybe if you inject a little bit of magic into it, it will kind of revolutionize that day-to-day area of life. So I like to see the third house as routines with meaning. So what can you do in 2025, particularly from July to November, to bring more meaning to those routines and make them a bit more exciting too? And this is just going to really kind of be on the hot off the heels of that year-long Jupiter transit. So you've already been working that third house muscle anyway. So maybe some opportunities in this area of life with Jupiter, and then the excitement of, even more. Jupiter and Uranus are very expansive. They're very electrifying. Anything can be possible. You had these two planets conjoin in your second house. What was that? April, I think. This year's been crazy, so I think it was April. So now you're going to have Jupiter and Uranus. They're not going to be co-present. Jupiter slips out before Uranus comes in, but it's going to be a continuation of theme of anything that you've already been curious about, anything that you've already been exploring, anything that's already changing in your day-to-day life is just going to be taken to the next level. So Jupiter's kind of provided a buffer here. And if you're not already curious about something in your day-to-day life, it's time you start, because Uranus could be a shock to the system if you're not really utilizing that Jupiter energy at present. Now, probably a couple more things to mention that I think is worth noting from the outer planet standpoint. Your Pluto in Aquarius is now a mainstay. So Pluto in Aquarius has been in and out, in and out, in and out of Aquarius, or Pluto in and out of your 11th house since I think it's March 2023. So pushing, it's about good 18 months at this point in time. So life with friends, groups, communities, your tribe, so to speak, may have been a little topsy-turvy as some new people have moved into your life. Others have moved out. and vice versa. So experimenting with friends, who are your aligned tribes, your aligned communities, and your aligned groups? Who can you trust as well as Pluto comes through this space? And that's going to be a big theme as well. It's also important to think that Saturn is the ruler of friendship, the way that your houses work in the whole sign system. And Saturn's going to be in your first house for a good chunk of 2025. So that's something to consider too. Who can you trust? Who do you need to put some boundaries around? Who may you need to loosen the boundaries with? It could go it's going to help you figure out friends anyway, whether those friends are your personal circles, maybe it's your community groups, maybe it's people within your workplace or within your industry. Now, the final point of 2025 for you is the eclipse cycle. So in January, the nodes are going to move from your first and seventh houses, and they've been doing their number on you there, and they're going to shift into 12 and 6. So the north node is going to move into the 12th, and the 6th house is going to feature the south node. So the 12th and the 6th are problem houses. They're cadent, we can't see them. The major difference is the 6's problems we can easily see, identify, and fix. And they're probably going to drain a lot of your energy in 2025. You might just have to do a lot of things. There may also be a health indicator there with the South Node in the 6th, Saturn in the 1st, energy, vitality, also Neptune in the 1st, energy, vitality are probably going to come down a notch. But on the flip side of that, the North Node is going to be in the 12th. And so this is about really tapping into the inner space, opening up maybe some problems you may wish you didn't have to deal with. But that being said, as someone once said to me, you always have the choice. You can lift the lid on something. You choose how much oxygen you choose to give it. That being said, you've had Saturn there already for a fair while now, and Neptune's been there forever. But for the most part, I think the eclipse cycle is probably going to bring energy issues, vitality, whether that is actual health stuff or maybe just running on empty a little bit. So there you have it, Aries. I hope that's really helped you to navigate some of the main themes of the year. Of course, if you would like me to look into your astrology through a reading, I'm more than happy to do that for you. And of course, you can book a consultation reading, whatever word you use, I don't mind, on my website, and I'll pop a link for you down in the description box below where you can find out more information and book in. So at this point, I know I'll be seeing you again a lot sooner until 2025 arrives, but I really do hope this year is really great for you. Until next time.